One Sunday morning, a husband and wife finished breakfast, and the wife noticed her husband was still in his pajamas. "Why aren't you getting dressed for church?" she asked. "Easy," he replied. "I'm not going." "Why not?" "Well, I've got 3 good reasons. First, the church is cold in the mornings. Freezing, really. Second, nobody there likes me. People are always gossiping about me. And third, I just don't feel like going." The wife thought for a moment. "Well, I've got 3 reasons why you're going. First, the church isn't cold in the mornings. It's nice and warm. Second, there are definitely people there who like you. And third, you're the minister, so get dressed." A guy walks into a bar on Valentine's Day and orders a beer. "Last night, my wife woke me up to tell me that she dreamed that I bought her a big, expensive diamond ring for Valentine's Day, and she wondered if that dream meant anything." "What did you tell her?" the bartender asks. "I gave her a passionate kiss and told her she would find out tonight." The guy laughs as he pulls out a small, exquisitely wrapped package. "I got her a book, The Meaning of Dreams." A brunette was driving home after a game when she got caught in a really bad hailstorm. The next day, she noticed her car was covered in dents, so she decided to take it to a repair shop. When the shop owner saw that she was a brunette, he thought it would be funny to play a little prank. He told her to go home and blow into the tailpipe really hard, and that would make all the dents pop out. Excited to try it, the brunette went home, got down on her hands and knees, and started blowing into the tailpipe. After a few minutes, nothing happened. She took a deep breath and blew even harder, but still no luck. Just then, her roommate, who was also a brunette, walked in and asked, "What on earth are you doing?" The first brunette explained the repairman's instructions. The roommate shook her head and said, "Seriously, you need to roll up the windows first." Little Johnny came late to school one day. "Why are you late, Johnny?" asked his teacher. "Well," explained Johnny, "just round the corner, there was a poor old lady looking everywhere for a £20 she lost. She was looking for half an hour. I couldn't walk away." "I see. That's really nice of you to help her." Johnny replied. "Help her? No, I was standing on it." After I hit the lowest point of my life, my mother told me, "Son, even if everyone gave up on you, you can never ever give up on yourself. Do you understand?" Yes, I was deeply moved. My mom turned around. She looked at my dad and said, "Yeah, he knows. We can go now." My lawyer gave me great advice. He always said I should never apologize if it's not my fault because I could be admitting liability and landed with a big bill. However, his uncle died recently, and I sent him a condolence card, and my trial starts next week. In class, a teacher asked her students what was something good that they did today. The first kid says, "I gave money to a homeless man." The second kid says, "I helped my mom with the chores." The third kid says, "I helped an old lady cross the street." The teacher was very impressed and had high hopes for the fourth kid. The fourth kid then says, "I prevented a murder." The teacher, amazed, asked the kid how he replies with self-control. Bidding at a local auction was proceeding furiously when the auctioneer suddenly announced, "A gentleman in this room has lost a wallet containing $10,000. If it is returned, he will pay a reward of $2,000. There was a moment's silence, and then from the back of the room came the cry, 2,500. My neighbour owes me £500 and he won't pay up. A man went to his lawyer and told him, my neighbour owes me £500 and he won't pay up. What should I do? Do you have any proof he owes you the money? Asked the lawyer. Nope, replied the man. Okay, then write him a letter asking him for the £1,000 he owed you, said the lawyer. But it's only £500, replied the man. Precisely. That's what he will reply, and then you'll have your proof. After 20 years of marriage, a couple was lying in bed one evening when the wife suddenly felt her husband start to touch her, something that hadn't happened in a long time. His fingers gently traced along her neck, then down her arm. Slowly, he moved across her back, over her shoulders, and down her side. She smiled, enjoying the unexpected attention, as his hand wandered, down one leg, up the other, over her stomach, then across her arms again. Her heart fluttered. Was this romance making a comeback? Then, just as suddenly, he stopped. She turned to him, grinning. That was nice. Why did you stop? He held up the TV remote and said, Found it. A truck driver stopped at a roadside diner for lunch and ordered a cheeseburger, coffee, and a slice of apple pie. As he was about to eat, 3 bikers walked in. One grabbed the trucker's cheeseburger and took a huge bite from it. The second one drank the trucker's coffee, and the third wolfed down his apple pie. The truck driver didn't say a word as he paid the waitress and left. As the waitress walked up, one of the motorcyclists growled, He ain't much of a man, is he? He's not much of a driver either, the waitress replied. He just backed his 18-wheeler over 3 motorcycles. A man was sued by a woman for defamation of character. She charged that he had called her a pig. The man was found guilty and fined. After the trial, he asked the judge, This means that I cannot call Mrs. Johnson a pig. The judge said that was true. Does this also mean I cannot call a pig Mrs. Johnson? The man asked. The judge replied that he could indeed call a pig Mrs. Johnson with no fear of legal action. With that, the man turned to his accuser and said, Good afternoon, Mrs. Johnson. Charlie walks into his favorite deli for a bowl of soup. After getting seated and just about to eat, he calls the waiter over. When the waiter arrives, Charlie says, Taste this soup. The waiter frowns. Why? What's wrong with it? Charlie insists. Just taste the soup. The waiter sighs. Charlie, you've been coming here for 30 years. You always order the soup and you've never complained. Charlie repeats, Taste the soup. The waiter, growing impatient, says, What is it? If you don't want the chicken soup, we have vegetable, minestrone, or maybe a nice split pea? Charlie, unwavering, says again, Taste the soup. Finally, the waiter gives in. All right, fine, I'll taste the soup. He leans in, ready to take a spoonful, but then pauses. Wait, where's the spoon? Exactly, Charlie exclaims. Where's my spoon? It was Saturday night, and the preacher still hadn't come up with a sermon for the next morning. Around 9 p.m., he turned to his wife and said, Honey, I've got it. I'm going to preach about horseback riding. She looked at him, bewildered. Horseback riding? That's ridiculous. You can't preach about that. Well, he shrugged, I've covered just about every other topic I can think of. This will have to do. The next morning, As they drove to church, his wife shook her head. "I still can't believe you're going through with this. If you're really going to preach about horseback riding, I'll just stay in the car during the service." "Suit yourself," he said, and she remained in the car. Once inside, inspiration struck, and instead of his planned sermon, he delivered a fiery, passionate sermon on the topic of leaving the congregation stunned and hanging on his every word. After the service, as people were leaving, a few church members spotted his wife still sitting in the car and walked over to her window. "You missed it," one of them exclaimed. "That was the best sermon your husband has ever given." She scoffed. "Oh, please. What does he know about it? He talks a big game, but he's only tried it twice in his life, once before we were married and once after. And he fell off both times." A man from Texas strides into a bar, his cowboy hat slightly tilted and a broad grin on his face. The place is buzzing with conversations and laughter, but he quickly captures everyone's attention when he climbs onto a stool and clears his throat. "Listen up, y'all," he calls out, his voice booming. "I've got some big news. My wife just gave birth to a typical Texas baby boy, and he weighed in at a whopping 20 pounds. The bar erupts in cheers and applause. The patrons are amazed at the size of the baby boy. 2 weeks later, the same Texan returns to the bar, and his presence is immediately recognized by the patrons. As he settles onto a stool, the bartender approaches him with a curious expression. "Hey there, aren't you the father of that 20-pound baby?" asks the bartender, pouring him a beer. "How much does he weigh now?" The Texan takes a slow, deliberate sip from his beer. He sets the glass down and leans closer to the bartender. With a proud twinkle in his eye, he says, 15 pounds. 15 pounds? But he weighed 20 pounds at birth. What happened? "Well," replies the Texan as he takes another sip of his drink, "we had him Three dogs were sitting in the waiting room at the vet's office, looking nervous. The first dog sighed and shook his head. "What's wrong, buddy?" asked the second dog. "I messed up bad," the first dog groaned. "My owner just got a brand new luxury couch. It was so soft and smelled so good, I couldn't resist. I marked my territory all over it. Now they're bringing me here to be put to sleep." "Oof, I feel you," said the second dog. "My owners love their fancy hardwood floors. They shine them every week. Well, the other day, I got a little too excited chasing my tail and, let's just say, I left a surprise. Scratches everywhere. They're putting me to sleep too." Both dogs turned to the third dog, who was wagging his tail. "What about you?" they asked. "What are you in for?" The third dog grinned. "Well, my owner likes to do yoga in the mornings. The other day, she was stretching on the mat, and when she got into downward dog, I couldn't help myself. I jumped on her back and had the best ride of my life." The other two dogs sighed. "So, you're getting put to sleep too?" "Nope," the third dog said, lifting a paw. "I'm just here for a nail trim." Little Johnny came to class, all beat up. "Teacher, what's wrong?" "Johnny, our house is very small. Me, my mum and my dad all sleep in the same bed. Every night my dad asks if I'm sleeping. I say no. Then he slaps my face and gives me a black eye. Teacher, tonight when your dad asks, keep dead quiet. Don't answer." The following morning, Johnny's teacher sees him with a severe swelling on his face. "Teacher, my goodness, why the swelling?" "Johnny, Dad asked me again, if I was sleeping. I shut up and kept dead still. Then my dad and Mom start moving. Mom was breathing heavy, kicking her legs up and making noises. Then my dad asked my mom, 'Are you coming?' Mom said, "Yes, I'm coming. Are you coming too?" Dad answered, "Yes." They don't usually go anywhere without me, so I said, "Wait for me, I'm coming too." A husband and wife were enjoying a meal at a fancy restaurant. As soon as their dishes were served, the husband exclaimed, "Dinner's here, let's dig in." His wife gave him a gentle nudge and whispered, "Sweetheart, don't you usually say grace before we eat at home?" The husband smiled and replied, "That's true, dear, but at home, it's me doing the cooking." Two nuns are sitting in their car one evening, stuck at traffic lights. As the lights turn green, out of nowhere, a vampire appears in front of their car. Sister Mary turns to the more experienced Sister Agnes and cries out, "Sister, a manifestation of pure evil. What shall we do?" Sister Agnes, with all of her holy wisdom, stays calm and says, "Sister Mary, I'm driving. You stick your head out of the window now and show him your cross. Repel the foul beast." So Sister Mary winds down her window and screams, "Will you get out of our way, you moron? Can't you see the lights have turned green?" A man walks into a bar and orders a whiskey. When the barman serves it up, he takes it out to the bench in front of the bar to drink it. As he's enjoying his drink, a nun walks by and glares at him sourly. "How can you pollute your soul with the devil's drink like that?" she asks. The man shrugs. "It's not the devil, it's just whiskey. But it's sinful and wicked. How do you know it's so bad then? Have you ever tasted whiskey?" "Of course not. My sisters and Mother Superior told me how evil drink is." "But how do they know? Have they ever had a drink?" They go back and forth like this for a while, before at last, the nun relents. "Well, I suppose that if I were to try a sip of whiskey, I would better understand how it corrupts the soul. But it wouldn't do for any of my sisters to come by here and see me drinking. Could you order me one in a teacup?" The man agrees this is fair and walks inside to the barman. "2 whiskeys, but put one in a teacup, please." The barman slams his hand down on the bar and shouts, "Is that damn nun here again?"